NHL Team Stat Leaders Week 13. Welcome and Happy New Year. It's January 2nd. The games of the day are about 2-3 hours away. I took a little bit longer to get my first video of the year out, or being back from the Christmas holidays in any case. I apologize for that. But you know what? Here we are. I hope everyone's safe and sound. Had a wonderful holiday season. This board, it took me a while to put together. And I tell you, I wanted to release this much earlier in the day, but I really have to learn. I'm learning how to manage my time on YouTube. Let's just put it that way. Enough of me yada-yeddling. Yeah, it's a new phrase I'm going to throw out there. Yada-yeddling. Let's get to the board. Let's get to this gorgeous board here. Starting with the special teams. And I'm speaking directly of the power play percentage. Top 5 here. Tampa, Winnipeg, Florida, Boston, Pittsburgh, Colorado. Yeah, with the kind of players they have, nothing's a shock there. Florida is still on this list, although they're having a bad year, mostly to do with their first and parts of their second line. Hoffman has really helped that out as well. Pittsburgh makes their way onto this list. It's not surprising because of Kessel and Crosby and Malkin and so on and so forth. I think this is part of why they've had a resurgence of late. That and their penalty kill, which I'll get to in a second. Moving on, the worst power play percentage in the league. Top 5, worst 5, starting with number 27, Anaheim, Carolina, Montreal, Columbus, Philadelphia. Usual suspects here, I think. Any playoff teams here? Definitely Columbus. Possible wild card in the making for Anaheim and Montreal if they don't screw it up. I don't know, Anaheim's just lost 5-6 in a row. And the only reason they're still in a wild card spot is because Edmonton just lost 5-6 in a row. Edmonton, what are you doing? You had gorgeous opportunity, perfect opportunity there to kick Anaheim out and take their place, but oh well, that's hockey, right? Moving on to the best penalty kill in the league. We have a top 5 here. Arizona, New Jersey, Minnesota, San Jose, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. There it is, Pittsburgh again. Their special teams have really come around in the last while. The worst penalty kill in the league. Edmonton, Montreal, Philadelphia, LA, Ottawa, Chicago. Not surprised. Possible only playoff team there, it might be Montreal. And if I was them, I'd fire their special team coach now. Yesterday. Whatever. Just do it. If you're on the worst PK and you're on the worst power play in the league, it's hard to expect to make a playoff spot. So I know special teams aren't the end-all be-all these days because not as many penalties are being called. Still, in the playoffs, those are going to become bigger part of winning games. Next up, we have the shorthanded goals, a new column that I've put in here. Not too much to look at here, really. Calgary, number 1. That's kind of surprising to me. Maybe not the Calgary fans have been watching them all season long. I've been watching games, just not as many as I'd like to. Arizona is there, and that's not a surprise. But because they have individual players, 2 individual players who are on the top 5 list for shorthanded goals. But Calgary still, they've doubled up most of the league, and the rest of them, the numbers there aren't too. You can look at it. It is what it is. That number 4 and 5 there means 7 teams are tied for 4th, and 5 teams are tied for 5th. Next up is also a new category that I have here. It's the shooting. I almost said save. Shooting percentage. Best shooting percentage in the league. So I threw 8 up here. I probably won't do this again, but in terms of the number. But here we go. Tampa Bay, Washington, Toronto, Calgary, Ottawa, Colorado, Winnipeg, and New York. New York Islanders, that is. When you have a lot of talent up front, you'd expect them to be on this list, right? Ottawa, they're on that list. That's surprisingly, especially the way Boucher usually coaches, but he's definitely changed his style this year to a much more offensive first kind of format as opposed to that neutral zone trap slash defensive play he usually coaches. Then the Islanders, Barry Trotz. That's going to be my answer to any Island. Why are the Islanders on some of these best lists? Barry Trotz for the most part. Next up, the worst shooting percentage in the league, starting with Anaheim, number 27, Anaheim and Buffalo, Boston, Arizona, LA, Carolina. Boston, I'd have to say it has something to do with a lot of their sophomores having sophomore slump years. That and a lot of their defense, like I want to say 5 of their top 6 defensemen getting hurt so far this year, and including their best centerman in Patrick Bergeron. Moving on to another new category, the best save percentage. I also put the top 8 here. I'll probably keep that to 5 next time around. The New York Islanders, number 1. Wow. Anaheim, Dallas, Boston, Toronto, Buffalo, Winnipeg, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Washington. That's also like the title list. The Philadelphia Heartbreak list. Because, starting with Robin Lehner in New York Islanders. And I know no one might have thought Lehner might have done this well, or Greiss. But again, Barry Trotz. That's all I'm going to say. So maybe, not having that coach or GM kind of stability on the island that is, in Lou Lamoriello and Trotz that would be in Philly right now wouldn't have helped Lehner to be there. But you look at Anton Khudobin from Dallas, who came from Boston, signed as a UFA. You look at Boston's Halak, who came from the Islanders. They signed as a UFA. You look at Buffalo's Hutton, who came from St. Louis, who they signed as a UFA. Then even if you look at Toronto, who waived Pickard, who Philly picked up and ended up wetting the bed there, and who's no longer around. Then the other goalie they waived was Curtis McElhinney, as all you Toronto fans cried about from time to time, including myself. Although Garrett Sparks has been doing, he's been winning most of his games, so it's hard to complain, and I think he's getting better. In any case, I digress. McElhinney, Philly could have had him for like maximum a 4th round pick, probably even a 6th. They could have had Curtis McElhinney, who would have helped stabilize that net. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 4 goalies. Hextall, when he was GM, could have picked up as UFAs or for a light trade. It's a shame. It's a shame. Otherwise, he could have still been with the team. Next up, the worst save percentage. Chicago, Ottawa, St. Louis, San Jose, Florida, Philadelphia. There they are, the worst in the league. God, I hope Carter Hart doesn't stick around for too long. Hope he goes back. Please don't ruin Carter Hart. Send him back to the minors. Let him marinate some more before he loses all his marbles. Forgets how to play goalie all of a sudden. In any case, okay, I don't want Philly fans to get mad at me. Okay, so it's a little shocking to see San Jose on this list, right? Man, Jones and Dell, just they're 2 goalies, really picked a bad year to have a bad year. They because this could very well, this is probably Joe Thornton's last year with his wonky knees. Could he come back? I'd say there's a 10% chance he comes back next year, really. And some of their core, being Couture, Pavelski, Burns, Vlasic, those guys, for the most part, are on the wrong side of 30. So I think their window is, the next 3 years, if they end up signing Erik Karlsson to a deal. But maybe the playoffs, something will happen. Look at Holtby for Washington Capitals last year. It's possible. Next up, we have another new category, the shooting percentage, save percentage category, otherwise known as PDO, otherwise known as puck luck category. Starting with, I put up 8 here. Washington, Toronto, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, Tampa Bay, Columbus, Vancouver, New York Rangers, Buffalo, Dallas. Again, New York Islanders, Barry Trotz. There you go. I'm just going to make you really sick of me giving you that answer all the time, but it's true. I mean, with John Tavares leaving, it is a bit of a shocker, but Trotz just shoring up that team defense really overall has helped tremendously. Pittsburgh playing really well of late, of the past dozen games or so, has made their own luck, really. And then Anaheim may not last on that list too long because the only thing keeping them there are their two goaltenders. One of them in Miller, who's hurt right now for the next indefinitely, really. Maybe Vancouver's and New York Rangers, a little surprising to be on that list. Markstrom's having a good year for Vancouver, and then there's the Pettersson factor, amongst other things. Besser, Horvat, etc. New York Rangers, why are they here? How do they get on this list? I haven't been watching them much this year. I think I've only caught 2 of their games, maybe. Maybe more like 4 or 5 if we count pieces and such. Lundqvist, right off the bat. He's probably a big part of the reason that's like that. And of course, their backup, Georgiev, has been doing not bad either. And then, Buffalo and Dallas. No surprises there. Goaltending. A lot, I think, has to do with goaltending and Buffalo's offensive weapons. The rookies, sophomores are coming around. Skinner, some of the UFA signings, etc., etc. Next up, the worst SPSV/PDO in the league, starting with number 27, Minnesota Wild, San Jose Sharks, Arizona Coyotes, Florida Panthers, and the Carolina Hurricanes. Minnesota just lost Dumba, and Dubnyk is having an okay year. He's had some slides there. They have had some goaltending issues. San Jose has definitely had goaltending issues. We just talked about that. Arizona, just their younger players haven't been turning out the way they wanted to. They've been making a lot of small trades this year. I think they've been doing it slightly better than they have last year. In any case, next category, goals for average. I just put the top 5. Tampa Bay, Toronto, Washington, Calgary, Colorado, San Jose, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg. Yeah, those are all playoff teams. Take a long look at that because I think enough said. I think you've heard everything I really have to say about those teams and why they're probably there. Then there's the other new category I have here, the goals against average here. Dallas. Surprising and not surprising. With Bishop and Hudobin. New York Islanders at number 2 here. Surprising but not surprising. Again, Barry Trotz, yes. Then Boston. Rask hasn't had the best year, but Halak's been having a crazy good year. Next up is what you've seen from last time we did this, which is the face-off category, which some people argue about. Means something, doesn't mean something. I think when you still start with the puck in either your defensive zone or your offensive zone, good things tend to happen. I know there's other things that are important like puck pursuit, etc., but starting with the puck is a good start. Either which way you look at it. So number 1 to 5 here, Philadelphia, Anaheim, Toronto, Calgary, St. Louis, Nashville. Giroux and Couturier are just really good face-off men, especially Giroux, I want to say. Anaheim, Getzlaf, Kessler, Henrique, good face-off men. Toronto, Kadri, Tavares, Austin Matthews has gotten a lot better. St. Louis, Ryan O'Reilly, Bozak's really good face-off man. Worst face-off teams in the league, 27 to 31 here. So this is where you look at it and you go, okay, are there any definite playoff teams on this list who you could just write off this whole face-off being that important kind of theory? And you look at it and you're like, Buffalo could get a wild card. Maybe Edmonton here. Vancouver, I doubt it. Capitals, I think they're the only guaranteed to get in the playoffs on this list. I think we can all agree they're the only team guaranteed to make the playoffs this year. Otherwise, Montreal possibly could get a wild card. Maybe the Islanders. Jersey, that's a no. Vancouver's a no. Edmonton, they could turn it around, I think. I mean, they just lost 5-6 in a row, but in any case, let's move on to the next category. You've seen this before, shots against per game. I put the top 4, shorten this a bit, starting with Carolina, who's usually there, San Jose, Vegas, Calgary, and Nashville. Soak it in. Soak that in. It's funny that in terms of San Jose that their shots against per game is so low, yet Jones and Dell are still having an awful year. And just think, if they were playing better, San Jose could be killing it. Could be a lot higher in the standings. That's all I have to say about that. Next category, the worst shots against per game category. There's my sad face, my green sad face. Number 27, New York Rangers. Then Detroit Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks, Anaheim Ducks, Ottawa Senators. What's to say here? Anaheim might be the only playoff team here. Maybe the Rangers. Doubtful, but maybe. And that's it. That's all. Next up, wins category. Yeah, number 1 through 4 here. Tampa Bay, Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vegas, Washington, Nashville. Nashville has got some of their players back from injury, including PK Subban and some of their forwards. Put some win streaks together again now because they had a rough, I want to say, last 15 games or so. Vegas is proving they're not a fluke. They don't look like they're going to be as good as last year, but they'll be hanging around for the playoffs. Losses: Vancouver, Detroit, Philly, Arizona, Chicago, Ottawa, LA. Yeah, enough said. Points. Let's talk about points. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is on their way to beating some records set by Detroit for points and wins. The next category is new, and I put it in last here. Just because I didn't know if I was going to be able to fit it or not. And I'll probably will put this in next time around as well. The hits per game. How much does this matter? How much does it matter in the regular season? How much does it matter in the playoffs? Because we'll see some of these numbers in the playoffs as well. So anyways, starting off with number 1, Pittsburgh, Montreal, Carolina, Edmonton, Vegas, New York Rangers, New York Islanders. A little surprised to see Pittsburgh up there at number 1, but hey, they're grinding it out. They're putting on their hard hats. They're going to work for you, Pittsburgh fans, and they're back in the hunt for a playoff spot. They're in the playoffs right now. I want to say, wild card spot at least. And New York Islanders. It's no surprise that they're back here, especially after they picked up Komarov and Matt Martin from the Maple Leafs as UFAs anyways. Komarov was traded. No, Komarov was a UFA. Matt Martin was traded to the New York Islanders, back to the New York Islanders. And so those two guys were always, I want to say, top 15, top 12 in the league in terms of hits every year. So, yeah, not a shocker to see them there at number 6. Number 3, Carolina Hurricanes. Rob Brindamore is all about grinding out games. Montreal, a smaller team, yet playing that fast forechecking style which seems to be similar to how Vegas plays, which is, is why they're there. Edmonton, basically that's what their bottom 2 lines do. They hit people because they aren't producing much points. Last category here, we have, as you may have guessed, the least amount of hits per game. This is an interesting category to look at, because starting with number 28, Nashville, Toronto, Chicago, Calgary being at number 31 spot. Now, 3 of those teams are really good teams and are definite playoff teams. So how much does hitting have to do with winning per se necessarily? Calgary's a fast team for the most part, so is definitely Toronto. Nashville's got a very mobile defense. So will those numbers increase for those teams in the playoffs? I don't know. That'll be interesting to see how that fluctuates. In any case, this video is long enough. Thank you so much for watching. Close to 50 subscribers now. Thank you so much to all of you who have subscribed. I really appreciate it. This being my first hockey season. It's being my I want to say my 4th month or now doing this. Thank you. Hit that like button if you like this video. Smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have any Hockey Geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.